It's without a doubt that PlayStation's Concord will go down as one of the biggest failures in video game history. It is one of the biggest flops ever for PlayStation, and it truly is baffling that this is, well, one of their first big entries in the live service arena. This is the area that Jim Ryan, before he departed, wanted them to be all in on after their success with a bunch of single-player cinematic story games the last generation or so. But so far, the live service jump has not been very successful. It's been a lot of hits and misses. Even Helldivers 2, which was a massive success, has been experiencing some massive woes as of late. But with Concord, it's just a whole different level of failure. And it was something that wasn't too shocking to a lot of us. When we talked about this game initially a couple months ago with that debut trailer, it was pretty obvious, like, holy crap, this looks horrible. The art direction is god-awful. And that's why it was mass disliked on YouTube. But then came the open beta, in which absolutely nobody was even interested in. That should have put off red flags, not just for us, but PlayStation. But they continued down this road, and they were selling $40 hero shooter at a time when Apex Legends, Valorant, Overwatch, Paladins, Deadlock, Marvel's Rivals, all these other amazing hero shooters coming from established AAA developers. I guess Firewalk thought that they had something different, something unique, although it was just 1970s Guardians of the Galaxy, even worse version, I should say. And I guess one of the major selling points was that they're going to have weekly cinematics, but now none of that's going to matter. As you can see, again, this is the open beta. It failed to top 2,500 concurrent players. This is why I am skeptical, even if this game were to go free to play one of these days, I don't think there would be interest unless they completely redesigned all of the characters and somehow changed the art style, and I don't think that's feasible. There's just some games in which their foundation is set up for failure, and this is a great example of it. And right now, for what it's worth, in Concord's player base, this is why PlayStation's giving up on this experience. As you can see, 104 players right now, and it peaked at 110. And over the last couple of days, the last 10 days the game has been out, it peaked at like almost 700, and it's been a slow decline every single day. This is why PlayStation doesn't want to invest further resources into it, and I don't think you can blame them at this point. But this is the big announcement that everybody is talking about today. It is the announcement that Concord is just done. Everybody's getting a refund. The last time I think PlayStation did that was Cyberpunk, and it was because it was a buggy disaster. An important update on Concord. The article goes on to say, Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord. Should have been listening a lot longer before then on PlayStation 5 and PC, and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. And again, it is important to mention that estimates have said that this game probably sold around 25,000 copies. So that means the game probably made $1 million. This game was in development for at least 5 to 8 years. Full development, I should say, probably 5 years. So it probably cost them at least $100 million for this game. The studio is based out of Washington, probably a bunch of developers making over 6 figures. So massive budget, just non-existent sales, worst case scenario, and there is no path forward right now. And they say this is the big announcement that everybody's absolutely shocked by, but I don't know if I'm too shocked by. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6, 2024, and explore options, including those that will better reach our players. I think there is a solid chance that we never see Concord ever again, because ultimately you go back to the open beta, in which this game wasn't even topping 2,500. And then you look at the market right now. Deadlock's popping off, massive player base right now. Marvel's Rivals is quickly approaching. Other multiplayer offerings like Black Ops 6 are set to launch very, very soon. I don't see a path forward in which Concord has a future. First impressions matter, and they'd have to completely redesign Concord to make it a unique experience, flesh it out, and I just don't know if that's feasible at this point. Unless PlayStation takes the loss, eventually releasing a free-to-play alternative and just giving it time to grow, and I don't know if they will do that. They continue saying, while we determine the best path forward, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PlayStation 5 or PC. So looks like I am $40 richer at this point, which thanks PlayStation, I guess, because truthfully I did regret buying that, but content, I suppose, and I had to check it out for myself. If you purchase the game for PlayStation 5 from the PlayStation Store, PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method, and then they go on to mention all the other places in which the game will be refunded to. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. We'll keep you updated, and thank you again to all the free gunners who have joined us in the Concord galaxy. So those 3 highly made cinematics are indeed the only cinematics we're going to get, and I'm sure that they had a ton of others that were already ready to go. I mentioned this in the last video. I was wondering if we'd ever see them. I didn't think it was going to be this soon, 10 days after launch, and it's gone. But some of the reactions that we have so far, Gene Park saying that Concord's PlayStation Store page is already down. You can see Astrobot instead. Again, they are immediately moving to get this game off the market, completely out of mind, and it does make me skeptical that we are ever going to see this game. And then PlayStation's own announcement for this, I do find it funny that they turned off replies. I guess they didn't want to see people dancing on its grave, and that's what people would have been doing. We have a former Bungie developer saying No Man's Sky, Elder Scrolls Online, Rainbow Six Siege. There are so many games that have proven that this doesn't mean the end. With the right moves, the right support, we could see Concord come back in a massive way. That's a win for the players and the devs. They've got my support. I'm all for this, but I just don't see that. I don't see the success that people are talking about, especially since you'd have to redesign all of the characters. I mean, let's look at the characters. I mean, you want to bring up, this is one of the major problems of Concord. You got a boring ass robot, you got knockoff Drax, and then you just got a bunch of really questionable character designs that probably will go down as some of the worst. It reminds me of Bleeding Edge, and the success of this game reminds me of Lawbreakers, and those games didn't last long for a reason. Del Walker, another former developer, I think Naughty Dog as well, saying 6+ year development times are dangerous. Yes, they are. For studios not named like Naughty Dog, Rockstar, this shouldn't be happening in industry, especially for Firewalk. This is a studio, I think that this was their first big game, and I would not be surprised that this is it for them, just because of how volatile the AAA games industry is, and how quick they are to knock off the studios that just aren't there to, printing results. When that game and similar was conceived, Destiny 1 was king. PUBG was the top-selling PC game. Overwatch just won Game of the Year, and yeah, they wanted that. They wanted to leech off of that, just with no distinct identity, unfortunately. Anthem was an exciting whisper. I don't know about that one. And Fortnite had just gone from 1 to 35 million concurrent players in 7 months. It does show how fast the AAA games industry can evolve and change, and they did have 6 to 8 years to realize and pivot, but they never did. Daniel Ahmad, games analyst, saying, honestly, kind of wild how Sony went from Helldivers to a massive success for their games as a service push to Concord in just a few months. And it's also important to remember that Helldivers 2 has been plummeting quite a bit lately, and a lot of that is to do with the developers really not having a path forward for that live service experience. I think the success of Helldivers 2 came out of the middle of nowhere for Arrowhead, but hopefully they'll get that thing turned around eventually, but so far it's been kind of messy as of late. Jez Cord, another games journalist, saying, Concord isn't even a bad game, it wasn't a buggy game. Seems the idea that you can make a widely successful premium multiplayer game this side of Call of Duty is probably just impossible in today's market. Hope Sony sticks it out and gives it free-to-play pivot to find its audience. The problem is there was never an audience even when it had an open beta. I do think that this imaginary narrative people are giving around, I am extremely skeptical that free-to-play will at all work for this game unless they completely redesign all aspects of the experience in terms of its character design, in terms of the theme it was going for, and I don't think that's possible, especially with the time investment, the money investment that would be needed for Firewalk to completely change the experience, and to, I guess, again, first impressions matter with Concord, and people did not at all have any interest in this experience when it came out in the open beta, and then when it cost $40, and I don't think that's going to change unless there's some big fundamental change to the experience, and I don't think that comes down to gameplay, because the gameplay is fine. It's nothing earth-shattering and nothing innovative. It's just fine. It's got some fun gunplay in my opinion. Some of the map design I think works, but at this point in time in this market, you have to stand out, and Concord does not in a positive way. And for the crowd that keeps on saying that this is a amazing 10 out of 10 game, I hope it gets free to play eventually. It's not. It's a game that it has had some extremely negative reviews. It actually is probably one of the worst reviewed PlayStation games in a while. Only 64 on OpenCritic, weak reviews, 24% recommended. ended. And yeah, you got like an IGN 7 out of 10, then you got PC Gamer giving it a 45. And again, I will say it's really weird how games media, a lot of these articles are neglecting to mention one of the major problems with Concord. And again, it is its character design. It's extremely unappealing, but they don't want to bring this up at all in any of these articles and interviews, and it's just very weird to me. We did here have the GameSpot editor mentioning the game was doomed to failure. Unfortunately, Sony is more interested in the business model more than the game. Again, this was always the case with the live service entry a couple of years ago, and the timing on it couldn't have been worse. It's a real shame since it was clearly well made. RIP. I again disagree with that latter remark there. He says, I think games as a service is a fool's errand. I agree with that one, particularly when that's the intent from the outset. The chances of success are minuscule, and betting millions of dollars and the jobs of hundreds on that is unhinged behavior. We did have another host producer in the industry saying my heart breaks for Firewalk Studios. Again, there's nothing happy about the fact that we're probably going to see a bunch of developers losing their jobs here. I will ultimately say that. I will also say that whoever was in charge, I think it's idiotic that these people will continue this industry with no consequences likely, because these executives should have known from the onset that there was major problems with this game, specifically the art direction. Just like the art director for this game, I don't know how they have a job after this, because the fact that they thought that this was going to have interest baffles me. The fact that it wasn't even given at least 6 months. 6 months, this game would probably, PlayStation's financials would be going down the toilet, especially with the millions that they probably have to spend on those cinematics alone. To properly sit through a season and adjust as a proper live service. Again, the problem is not the gunplay, it's not the gameplay. It baffles me people keep on jumping at this conclusion. Stop neglecting to mention the major problem with Concord. The fact that its theme, everything about it, it's just extremely unappealing to gamers, the mass player base, people that are interested in multiplayer games like this, especially when there are cheaper free-to-play options out there. Again, yeah, they wanted to adjust to a proper live service game. It's insane to me that they didn't allow that. It's very clear PlayStation didn't believe in this from the start and failed to support it. Well, they gave it 8 years of development, probably $100 million budget, so they did believe in it. I think they stopped believing in it when that YouTube trailer for it tanked, and then the open beta tanked. But again, it's important to remember that right now PlayStation, how they're going about live services, it really is questionable, because we had The Last of Us Online. That was canceled finally earlier on this year. That's probably the one live service game that was going to have, no matter what, tons of success, just because, again, it's attached to a massive IP such as The Last of Us. Helldivers 2 has fallen on rough times as of late. Then this is a multiplayer game I almost completely forgot about, just because of how forgettable it was, and it was controversial at the time. This is a CGI trailer for Fair Games. I think a lot of you forgot about this, but yeah, as you can see, 18,000 dislikes kind of tells you all you need to know. I didn't know there was another Concord already until people reminded me. There's nothing to make out of this footage. It just looks like a heist game. You see a couple of characters running, shooting. It's supposed to be really fun, but we'll see with this one, especially once we actually see a proper gameplay reveal. But the initial impressions, quite negative here and down the comment section below. And yeah, as I typed a couple of days ago, oh no. The irony of a live service game based on eating the rich is levels of irony even I can't comprehend, and I'm fueled by it. Eat the rich, the game is the most corporate vision ever. Yeah, again, people making fun of this trailer. This is something we talked about a couple of months ago. Then we have Marathon, Bungie's biggest new IP that's supposed to be coming sometime next year, and everything that's been coming out of this game is absolute disastrous news for PlayStation. Marathon reportedly flopped amongst playtesters amid Bungie chaos. This was 2023. Then we had the recent update. This is the big news the last week or so, and it's the fact that Bungie fired the Marathon director after misconduct investigation. It's just all around bad news for PlayStation right now after they've jumped into the live service arena, and it does not appear it's going to be getting better anytime soon. Anyway, the lessons with Concord will not be learned from this industry, because we just keep on having this repeat of failures in which you think that the industry is going to learn a lesson, but then we see another game that does pretty much the exact same thing, and it's repeated over and over again. It's a cycle of non-stop bullshit. But yeah, let me know, what do you make of Concord being shut down, refunds being given out? This is definitely amongst PlayStation's biggest flops ever, biggest failure ever. Let me know down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.